How possible is it to raise investment for your startup with no MVP or traction? I challenge myself to really think about this for a moment, think about all the angel checks that I've written and the times that I've spent working in venture capital, being an analyst, being a scout, being an associate, and then finally a general partner, figuring out how we would determine whether we wanted to write a check and invest in a startup if that startup had no MVP or no traction whatsoever. And I'm not going to lie to you, it is not easy, but I really did challenge myself and I said, okay, if we had to, what would be the parameters? And that's the topic of this video today. I'm going to explain it to you. Before we continue, my name is Ed Kang. If we have met before, use the chapter markers and skip right to the video. I've made it as easy as possible for you. You are welcome. If we haven't met before, I'm a 7-time funded founder with 2 exits, and that's just a fancy way of saying I've failed a bunch of times to your benefit because I like to use YouTube videos like this and this YouTube channel to try and help you avoid some of the catastrophic mistakes that I've made. Not to say you're not going to make mistakes, but I'm going to try to make your life a little bit easier. I'm also the Chief Strategy Officer for Startups.com, where I advise hundreds of founders on a regular basis. If you haven't checked this out yet, go ahead. There are a lot of great resources there. Easy domain name to remember. If you're part of Startups.com, then thank you so much for your support. While you're here, like, comment, subscribe. So here's the thing. I have raised over $100 million for my startups, other people's startups, as well as startup funds. And I work with the team at Startups.com that has experience raising over $750 million, helping other startup companies that have gone on to raise billions of dollars. So I have a lot of data to look at, especially as I analyze and I follow all the checks that are being written in this recent phase of the dot-com economy. And the only way that I think that you can raise funding and attract those investors with no MVP or traction is to make sure that you pitch a dream team. Dream Team, and it's an acronym because I'm going to break this down for you. D.R.E.A.M, T.E.A.M. Say it with me, Dream Team. Let me just reiterate here. It is very hard to raise funding without an MVP or without traction. Why? Because it's so much easier to build an MVP and to go out and get traction, at least some initial traction, validation, de-risking the investment, just a little bit, just to get started, to show investors that you're good for it. It's much easier now. Therefore, the standards are starting to raise. But let's say for some reason or another, you cannot build an MVP and you cannot get traction because you're building that type of startup, or you just want to make sure that you've got these things in line so you can attract investors and maybe get a little bit of validation that you're heading in the right direction. For that to occur, dream is the operating word of team. Too many founders just say, here's my team and give us some money, when you have to present a dream team, and that dream team has to be like U.S. Olympic basketball team level dream team if you don't have an MVP and you don't have any traction. So I'm telling you right now, this is not going to be easy. It needs to be the dream of an investor, the investor's dream, and I'd love to invest in this team if everything fell into place. So be warned, be prepared. Let's look at what dream team could stand for. First, you need to have domain expertise. You need to be known as an expert, and it doesn't have to be world famous. You don't have to be Hollywood famous or a celebrity. You just have to be proven in your industry that you know more about the domain of the problem that you are solving than anybody else. And that's the first step that's going to make this extremely hard. But the next thing you have to do is be realistic. It needs to be experts, but you all have to be very realistic about that industry, what you can accomplish, and the level of skills that you bring to the table. Because I know a lot of founders that think they're experts, but they're not very realistic about their industry, not realistic in terms of assessing themselves. If you're looking around and say, yeah, I might have some expertise, but realistically speaking, there are a lot of other people out there who are much smarter than me trying to solve the problem, you have to take that dose of realism. Too many founders I know are in denial, thinking that they're the expert, especially if they're coming from another industry and they're trying to build a startup in an industry that they're not used to, not being realistic. So you have to be very realistic because the investor is going to be realistic with their money. It's my money. So realistically, what is the chance that you're going to be able to take my $1 million and turn it into $100 million? Be realistic. After that, you have to have experience. And this doesn't have to be experience necessarily in the particular domain or working in a startup that's solving the same problem. You might have experience in other startups. That's why I'm telling you, unfortunately, if you come out of school and even if you are an expert and you got that expertise in school, you don't have any real life world experience, and therefore students have a much harder time doing this. Not saying it's impossible because you might have done some amazing things while you're in school, but if you don't have experience in some related form that makes the investor go, ah, yes, this is an experienced person, maybe not necessarily as a startup founder, entrepreneur, but generally in life that can be responsible, accountable with my money. If you don't have that, then this is going to get challenging. After experience, everybody has to be aligned, meaning that you have to know your titles, your responsibilities, know where everybody's contributing. The values all have to be the same. And one place the values come out is how you do your cap table, your co-founder arrangements, how's the equity being split. But not only does the alignment have to be between you and your team, but also with the investor as well. Every investor has a thesis, and that thesis is based on several factors, including their goals, but most importantly, based on their values. Those values may determine what type of problem they're trying to solve or what type of founder that they are looking for. For example, if an investor values an underserved, underrepresented, and underestimated niche of an industry and wants to do something with minority founders, well, that's a value system that they're going to have, and that needs to be reflected in your team. And just like you have to work with your founders and you pick and choose based on value alignment, you can't just go out and attack investors for having different values than you. And don't forget, along with their investment thesis, it has to do with maybe the stage that they invest in, the type of industry they want to invest in. You need to get alignment. And don't worry if the alignment's not there. There's so many other investors. Worry about your team alignment because that's so important, but keep going and work through the different types of investors till you find one that does align with you. Don't give up your identity. Don't budge. Don't compromise. If your team is really strong, don't let one investor come in and break that up. Make sure you hold clear and fast to your alignment. Market insight is next, and that is so important. You have to have founder market fit. Remember, you don't have a product. You're not selling. Therefore, you don't have any traction. So right now, you've got no data to prove that you can actually go out and you're heading towards product market fit. Therefore, all you have is founder market fit. And if one of your founders or everybody can say, yeah, we acknowledge our competition, we acknowledge what our customers want, and we know something that everybody else doesn't know, we're going to learn from them, but we've got a special hack. We've got special sauce, maybe a contrarian way to look at the market because of that domain experience. You're totally realistic. You've got everything in line, and you've got that insight in the market. Investors are going to want to know that, especially if it's different from all the competition and what everybody else is building out there. Now we get to team. And the team, I'm sorry, you're going to have to be technical. And I'm not talking about having a PhD in AI from some type of Ivy League school. I'm talking about be able to technically build something. Even if you haven't built anything yet, you have to be technical. And I don't think there's any excuses out there right now. Every founder can at least achieve a minimum amount of technical ability with all the AI agents out there. You've heard of things like vibe coding. You've heard of things as no code, low code. That is all making it super accessible for you. Not to mention, there's so much talent out there right now. People are losing their jobs. It's a tech recession, tech session. So you don't really have an excuse to go and find at least a technical founder or people who are technical on your team. That's going to be important, especially if you're building a technical startup. Investors want to see that you can build it in-house. I am not saying if you're not technical, you shouldn't be a founder. I'm not saying if you're not technical, you can't go raise capital, but then you're going to need an MVP. You're going to need traction. If you do not have the technical people in-house where an investor goes, all right, I can see that if everything comes together and I do invest, they have the ability to build something technical and really fast. If you don't have that, well, you're back to getting that MVP, getting that traction going. So don't be deterred, don't be discouraged, but just know this is for this particular methodology in raising capital without an MVP or without traction. After technical, you got to put up some evidence. I'm not saying you have to build the product itself or the demo or an MVP. You have to show evidence somehow. A demo would be nice, something super simple, but you have to present the technical evidence to showcase that you can build. A lot of times you might ask the investor, what's the minimum amount of evidence that you need to see? And they might just need to know that you've built some other startup somewhere else, some other tool that is close or comparable to showing off the skills that you're going to use to build the current startup. Evidence is different. It's just like a court case. Every jury is going to want different evidence to sway their opinion one way or the other. It's going to be up to you to find that out, but be prepared to present evidence. Don't just say, well, we're technical and we know how to do everything and we know how to build stuff. Show the evidence, show the investor, build that trust, because once you put that evidence out there, it's much easier to say, all right, I can see that this is a possibility, and therefore that trust starts to build up, which is what you need between you and that investor. After evidence, action orientation. The investor must believe that you all can execute and that you are rip-roaring, ready to go. You cannot wait. You're like a dog on a leash, and you just have to get that leash off or let that leash go. And that team, your team, is going to attack the problem and get things done faster than anybody else. Remember, you haven't built anything yet. You don't have traction yet. You have to prove to the investor that you are ready and you will fly right out of the gate. And that action orientation is going to be very evident by all the different things that you present, and especially after you meet the investor, which is a great segue to my last point, and most importantly, monthly updates. That investor may not write you that check right away, but they may wait and see what your team is going to do. And that's the reason everything leading up to this leads up to that action orientation. Are you all willing to take action while the investor watches? This is the difference between being a missionary and a mercenary. Missionaries believe in solving the problem. Missionaries are so jacked up, they are hyped, that you don't have to ask them to take action. They're just going to do it. A mercenary says, I'm not doing anything until I see that money. Show me the money. That's the attitude mercenaries take. And that might have worked in the movie Rod Tidwell with Jerry Maguire to get Jerry Maguire to represent him, but it's not going to work with investors. If you say, show me the money, and we're not doing anything until then, that is going to be a big turnoff. And that's why you want to get the investor on board, attracted to your team. And when they say, okay, I'll think about it, you say, we'll send you our updates on what we're doing in the meantime while you make your decision. There are investors out there that will not invest until they get 6 months of updates. And nothing stops you from doing that. Nothing stops you from getting your team together and say, let's continue to build. Let's continue to validate. Let's continue to figure things out and share with the investor the additional insights that we're getting. Because remember, we are the dream team. Give the investor a reason to stay in touch with you and follow up with you. Get emotionally invested by observing what you are doing, and then get them excited, because who knows what happens between now and when they write the check. You might hit so many different inflection points that you're ready to go, and you say, yay, look at what we did. And they start getting that FOMO, and they're like, wow, I had a feeling about these guys that they were going to go out and execute. They're action oriented, and look what they did. So now I've reached that point where I'm ready to start exploring writing a check. It might be a small initial check, might be a pre-seed check to get to the next little milestone to put things into action. Or they might say, all right, I'm ready to go all the way because this is the team of my dreams. If anybody's going to figure it out, this team is going to figure it out. And you are a well-known quantity that I can believe in, because everything you show me up to this moment in time has been building my trust and my confidence. There you have it. Build the dream team. Doesn't matter what it takes. Bring them all together. Measure everybody's character, their competence, get their chemistry going, build it, show it, pitch it to the investor, and you have a much better shot than all those other teams with a lowercase team that just say, hey, here's our team. You want a capital D and a capital T for dream team, and get that investor interested. Let me know how it goes. If this is what you're doing, love to hear your thoughts. Share this with another founder. Watch some of these other videos that I put on the screen, and thanks for hanging out on this one. I'll see you in the next video.